Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. This show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon, USA studio. And for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we have decided to talk about. And tonight we'll be talking about an advocate for mental health and those kinds of things that we will be talking about in the second half of the show. And as you know, in the first half of the show, I was talking to Ann. May I call you Ann?
Yes.
Or what? Okay,
yes.
You can call me Don
Okay.
or whatever. And then we'll talk more in the second half of the show about the subject. So, how are you feeling right now?
Good. It's very nice to be with you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And you're not nervous?
A little bit to be on this side of the camera with you. Yes.
Yeah, because I got to mention you're a fellow producer and
Yes.
host at a talk show on Portland Community Media, Portland, yeah.
Community media. Yes.
Community
you're
Media,
right.
yeah. So you've been doing that for a number of years.
Yes.
How'd you get involved in that?
I was walking in my neighborhood, and it was a couple blocks away, and I just walked in.
Uh-huh.
And it's a big volunteer organization. It's very fun, and making the TV shows is like building a team, isn't it? So you
Yes.
have your team, and I have my team, and it's great.
So how many years have you been doing it?
About 16.
About the same as me?
Yes.
And you crewed on my show some time ago.
Yes, I was camera on your show.
And before we came into the studio this evening, I was trying to place your face. I didn't remember you, and then when I saw you, that smile, I said, oh, I know you.
Thank you.
Anyhow, I'm a little nervous as I always am before the show starts, so let's see if we can get going here. If I were to ask your best friend, who is Ann? What would your best friend say? Ann is what? Be your best friend.
Be my best friend.
Yeah.
She is a person who loves speaking different languages, will talk to anybody on the street, loves travel, is an advocate, wants the best for everybody in the world.
Wow, is that true?
Yes, well, you asked me.
Yeah, okay.
How about Don? Who is Don?
Yeah, you're a guest. You're not.
Okay, all right.
No, that's okay. Okay, shall I read you about who Don is?
Yes.
All right. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, of red, white, and black Roman Catholic parentage on December 26, 1928. Today I am a-religious and accepting of all others. I am a retired PhD clinical psychologist and present-day television broadcast journalist. I am the 12th of 12 children. I am married and am the father of 5 daughters by a first marriage. Politically, I'm a progressive populist activist, still learning how to live lovingly. A few of my heroes include Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and any other fellow human who is currently living lovingly. Okay, now, where were you born?
In San Jose, California, but I came back to Portland when I was 4 months old.
Why did you cover your mouth when you said San Jose, California?
My family's been in Oregon for over 100 years, and you know there's some prejudice about people from California. That's why.
Yeah, for good reason. No.
So really, my family is from Oregon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When were you born?
In the
Is that a fair question for you, a woman?
It's fine. 1968.
68, okay. Why were you born?
Why was I born?
Why does everyone repeat that question to me?
I was born to be on your TV show, as well as to be a mental health advocate and to work with refugees, I think. And to be a loving person, like you said. I like that.
Wonderful, yeah, all right. Anything significant about your national or cultural racial heritage, or you're just plain old American white bread?
No, my family's from Switzerland originally.
Switzerland?
Yes.
I've never had a guest on from Switzerland before.
And actually, I got a scholarship when I was a sophomore in high school and ended up living in Switzerland for a couple months. Brought the picture from 1870 of my family and found the family we hadn't talked to for 100 years back there.
What a story.
And they just looked like us, the same bad jokes, and it was really great. They're real Caspers. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So-
And do you have a religious preference nowadays?
Nowadays, it's a good question. Nowadays, I belong to the Unity Spiritual Centers,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that because it accepts all faiths.
Yes.
as it is.
I know a little bit about them from
Okay.
years ago. Yeah.
Great.
Did you have another religious preference when you were growing up?
Well, I grew up Catholic, and in fact,
Uh-oh.
why?
So did I.
Actually, do you know St. Andrew's Catholic Church? Because that really formed the background of who I am with social justice, caring about people, working to help others to live the best life they can.
Where
So
is that church?
it's in Northeast 8th in Alberta.
Here in Portland.
Here in Portland, and it was a hippie Catholic church. So if you can grow up Catholic, that's the best way, right?
Were you a hippie?
No, it was too late for that. Were you a hippie?
I wanted to be. I was too old, but I faked it.
So we were in the middle there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And your formal education, boy, you got a long list of things that you've done in your formal education. Say a few words about what your degrees and like that.
Well, my first bachelor degree was international studies, international economics, and my master's degree is teaching English as a second language and master's in applied linguistics.
And so you know some different languages?
I do, but you don't need to get the master's. That master's
Yeah.
it helps, but yes, I do speak some language. I can gossip in some languages.
Do you speak Swiss?
Well, there is Swiss German and French and, you know, Italian and Romanish. I don't speak Swiss German, but I speak High German, so yes.
Wow, son of a gun. How'd you get so smart?
I guess it's my family, right?
You
Comes
got a
from my
bright
family.
family?
I got a bright family.
Yeah.
Very caring, bright family.
Brothers and sisters?
One brother, his younger brother, who's a teacher.
Uh-huh. And your mom and dad, where are they now?
They're in Northeast Portland as well.
Are they going to see this show?
Probably now. Yes.
Okay.
And they're not interested so much in international things. So I don't know what happened to me. I've always been interested on the international track. And so I did study French and German and Japanese and was able to live in those speaking countries as well.
And you speak all those languages from time to time?
Yes, from time to time.
That's mind-boggling. You see, it's hard for me to talk with somebody in a relaxed mode because I don't want someone to be smarter than me, but it looks like you are, and that's scary.
I just act smarter. I'm not smarter. That's scary. No, for me, actually, languages are a hobby. It's like a puzzle piece, putting the pieces together, the grammar and the words. So it's like any other hobby. Like, what kind of hobbies do you? So you have hobbies too, right?
Yeah, you heard me sing before the show started.
Yes.
Anyone? Never mind. And you've been doing this kind of work all your life.
What kind of work is that?
Helping human beings and focusing on health and mental health. And
Right. Well, mental health has openly only been doing advocacy for about 10, 12 years. And before that, I kept it hidden. Before that, I really concentrated on refugees.
Refugees?
Yes.
And how did you get that kind of a curiosity?
In high school, I had a teacher who got me involved in a writing project where I helped edit refugee stories. And that started back then. And then later on, I got a job being a refugee sponsorship person here in Portland. And I spoke at 35 churches with other refugees together, and we got people to house refugees, give them food, give them transportation, things like that.
Do you ever have stage fright?
Yes, absolutely.
No, you're so relaxed right now.
Absolutely.
That sounds interesting. My God, boy, I bet you got tons of stories. We're supposed to only go for an hour, but
Okay.
you've got so many stories, we'll go for 2 hours. No. So you have a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, or what?
I have a temporary cat in my house.
Temporary cat. See?
Yes, for 3 months. I've taken care of her for 3 months.
What's her name?
Her name is Contessa. I call her Contessa because it's Italian, but her real name is Tessa, from her owner.
Does she like you?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I can understand why she would.
Yeah, I had a cat for 18 years, and I just didn't want a full-time cat. So this came up, and the man was looking for someone to take care of the cat for 3 months. I thought it was great, and she's a wonderful cat. And I am dating a little bit, but you know, my parents are watching this, so I'm not going to talk about it now.
You can look at the camera right there.
Okay.
And tell tell your parents what you think of them.
My parents are
Tell 'em.
wonderful. I think they're fantastic people. They've been through this whole journey with me, which has not been easy. They've kept me out of the hospital system for many years and have supported me through everything.
Why getting out of the hospital system is important.
Yes.
Getting out of the hospital system. You mentioned that. What does that mean, getting out of the hospital system?
Well, actually, for me, it was staying out because before we had mental health parity with insurance, I couldn't even get mental health care or insurance. I couldn't buy any insurance because I was working as adjunct faculty at Portland State, PCC. I didn't have I was working different places, so I didn't have insurance through one company. And at that time, if you had a diagnosis, for example, pre-existing, for example, bipolar, I couldn't even buy any kind of insurance, health insurance, mental health, any kind of insurance.
So parity, what does that mean?
It means that when you have health insurance, that also covers mental health as well. But at that time, I couldn't get any insurance.
Did you ever have a serious diagnosis?
That, I think bipolar is serious, right? Mine is, in fact, bipolar 1 with psychotic features. That's what it's called.
Boy, many, many years ago, the
Yes.
psychiatrist wanted to put me on lithium because I had a major diagnosis.
Oh.
And the psychologist said, no way. He's just so busy and he's so occupied like that. He's not really that sick. Can you
Great.
imagine being on lithium all your life?
I was on lithium for 20 years, as well as
Really?
28 other medications. I'm not green yet. Isn't
You
that
didn't
great?
have to say all that, but I
Anyway,
thought it was
yes.
just we were going to shut it down and go into something else.
No, but lithium. So they kept you off of lithium.
Yeah,
right?
so
Okay.
goodness. So you own anything now?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It's called chocolate.
I quit. Let's stop now. I love it.
I am on one medication right now, yes.
Okay, yeah. And you don't have a husband, but you're available.
Well, actually, is this a dating show? I didn't know.
Probably.
Actually, throughout the years, because of the illness, because of what I went through, the psychosis, the hospitalizations, the commitment,
Yeah.
I didn't think I was good enough to marry. Really. I'm changing my mind now, but that's what I felt.
Some poor guy's longing for you out there. Okay, get her email address. All right. Any political persuasion? Is there to comment about that? Are you on the left or the right or the center or what?
I'm in the human rights center, so whatever brings human rights works for me. And sometimes that's the left, sometimes that's the right. It's interesting, right? Who brings up those things? So whatever is best for humans.
You think the right is really that interested in human rights?
I think sometimes
I'm
it
biased,
happens.
as you can tell.
I know. But sometimes their legislation and their ways of thinking actually are good for people. So it's interesting.
I got a trick question
Oh,
for
trick.
you.
Okay, I'm ready to go now.
I rarely ask.
Oh, really?
The difference between sympathy and empathy and compassion. Those
Right.
three.
Sympathy, I think, is feeling for somebody else what you think would help them, like, I'm so sorry or something. Empathy is feeling with them. So, for example, we'll talk later, I think about peer support specialists. They work with empathy. And compassion, I think, has the word passion. It comes from the heart. It's working from the heart.
I'm so glad you're on my show. You're so smart. Yeah, so I got a good answer. I rarely ask that question because I'm afraid some people will be thrown by it. I was thrown by it for many, many years. And any memberships in political, social, or civic organizations that you belong to right now? There's a whole list of these. And
The whole list of them.
any important ones.
An important one's called the Oregon Consumer Advocacy Council, and that's through the state of Oregon, and we actually advise the state of Oregon on how to do mental health. Is that exciting that people with mental health issues are there doing that?
And what else do you remember of anything?
Well, I belong to a French club and a German club and an Italian club. It's always good to keep up the languages, right? And I have helped out in the past, and I still do sometimes. The Portland Public Police, I help out with their trainings about mental health. So.
Yeah. And any heroes or people you look up to through the years that
Heroes.
you met? Any
A
names
lot
come
of
to mind?
heroes. Any names? Well, the names you mentioned too were just Gandhi and Jesus and
Martin Luther King.
Martin King and Simone de Beauvoir.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How about
Sure,
Donald
ladies.
Trump? No, never mind. Cancel that.
Okay, that's your
I got to
question.
provoke you. All right. What else? What do you think of the mainstream media? Is it left or right or centrist or what? Generally speaking.
I'm going to skip the question and say I think it's really good that we have independent media.
Uh-huh.
Like what you and I get to do is that we're not, how do we say, we're not forced to say things or not say things because of commercial interests.
Uh-huh.
We're able to say anything we want. And now with the internet, people can say what they want too. So how's that for skipping the question?
I love it. Thank
Okay.
you. Do you read, view, or listen to alternative media?
Yes, I do.
Name a couple of things that you're involved in or listen to or read of the alternative media.
Well, alternative media, actually, I like that radio show Coast to Coast. Do you know Coast to Coast?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Who's it on?
It's very alternative.
Uh-huh.
George Norrie does that. So it's very out there.
It's on a local station?
No, it's actually syndicated nationally
Uh-huh. And how do you listen to it?
by radio.
By
I actually
radio.
still old-fashioned. I still listen to the radio.
What station do you get it on here in
I
Portland?
think it's KEX 1190. And part of the reason why I started listening to the radio is that at night I would get really scary visions. And for me to have a distraction like the radio on, it helped keep me away from those scary visions. And so I just got in the habit of turning on the radio at night to distract me.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Oh, Straight Roots is great too, alternative media, isn't that? I get a lot of news from them.
That's kind of far left, isn't it?
Well, they give news that we don't see in the regular media
Right,
as well.
right. You ever watch Democracy Now! With
Yes.
Amy Goodman?
In fact, I worked for the people who started Democracy Now!
Wow, your credentials as long as my arm. That's wonderful. You ever meet Amy
Yes.
Goodman?
No. No, I
I'd love to
haven't.
meet her one
Have
day.
you met her?
No,
No?
I have. I've seen her in a book signing, I think, yeah. But anyhow, that's something else. So let's take a break and come back and talk about your work and what you've been doing all these years.
Okay.
An early break, Mr. E, can we do that? Okay, we're back. Thanks for staying tuned. And for you viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don, that you're watching is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like Ann here about who she is and the subject we'll be talking about tonight, mental health and health issues in general and her experiences in this field and so on. Okay, I'm at a loss for words. Let's go into the first part of the show.
Okay.
What is your personal experience in the mental health system? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the first exposure I had to the mental health system was when I was 18, and I had actually come back from working in Germany for a year, and I was sleeping 20 hours a day. I just couldn't get enough sleep. And then it flipped to not sleeping and only sleeping about 3 hours a day. And as you probably know as a psychologist, right, that if you
Yeah.
don't sleep, you can become psychotic, they call it, or extreme state, whatever you call it. So
Yes,
I
yes,
did,
yes.
and I was taken to a local hospital in Portland and put into one of those rooms, tied down, given a shot in my hip,
Oh my
without
God.
explanation what was going on. So that was my first exposure. And I stayed there for a few weeks, and they put me on medication. It took me about 6-7 months to come back to a little bit who I was before. So that was my first exposure.
Wow. So did you have an impression then based on that experience?
Yes, yes. And but I didn't let it stop me, and I tried to go on. I did get a couple degrees. I have done different jobs, and I've been very lucky to get support from friends and family, as well as system people too.
Yeah, so for the last 5 or 6 years, you've been more deeply involved than in your life before.
In advocacy work, yes.
Advocacy.
So being outside, because I was a teacher before, and I never told people that I had mental health issues. So because I was adjunct faculty, English as second language, I had a pretty good reputation. So if I got psychotic while teaching, then I would just kind of quit and work at another school later on. So I worked at
Where
many
is she now?
schools.
Oh, she's gone someplace else.
Yes, and I was lucky at Portland State University. Even though I had gotten psychotic a couple times in the middle of a quarter, they hired me back. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Yes.
Because of who and what you're about.
That, and the boss actually had a brother with mental health issues, so she understood that it's not the end of the world, that people can come back and work.
So, how did you become an advocate for persons with mental health issues? You talked a little bit about that so far.
Yes.
An advocate for people who have mental health issues. What group of people in the Portland area you experience having mental health issues more than your average normal neurotic, so to speak, like us?
Well, the population I've been working on, and because I think you remember I told you I couldn't buy insurance, so I had no insurance, and I ended up not working.
Because of your history?
Because of having a pre-existing condition.
Yes, of course.
And even I had money to buy insurance, and I still couldn't. Isn't that crazy?
The insurance companies
said no, you can't buy it. And I didn't marry into insurance. Now I think I should have gotten married with somebody with insurance. I didn't think that well back then. So I ended up in the public county mental health system in Multnomah County.
And how did that work for you?
Well, okay, so going on from there, at one point I was at an agency that actually got split up because they'd grown too big and they were not giving us good care. And I remember one time we had to go in for medical appointments. They had one doctor for 30 of us. We had a first come, first serve.
Oh,
so if you
man.
didn't get there on time, you didn't get a medical appointment. Things like that were happening. And we thought some of the management wasn't treating us well, some of it was. There's always spectacular people in every organization. And we had leaders like Becky Child, who's a leader here in the Portland movement for mental health, Becky Child and Donita Diamata, who got us to actually protest. So we were in the parking lot of these agencies protesting for our rights to getting good. And so it was through those mentors that I learned. Still kept quiet because I still worked after that as a teacher. And then I got involved with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Oregon
National Alliance
chapters,
on Mental Illness?
called NAMI.
NAMI, that's
Yes.
worldwide?
It
No, it's
is
national.
actually nationwide.
Yeah.
And there's about 19 chapters in Oregon. And I got involved with the state office. And because when I go through psychosis, or it takes me months, sometimes years to come back to a regular state. And at that time, I don't like being alone. And in fact, sometimes the soap opera people became my friends because I was so annoying or so needy that my friends kind of walked away. My family couldn't always handle me. So the National Alliance of Mental Illness, they were looking for a volunteer. And I went to volunteer with them. And they have training programs on how to go speak to people and teach classes as people with mental illness. So they got me started in the public. And since then, I work with different organizations, like I said, the police or Mental Health America of Oregon. There's many organizations here.
So it's the treatment of people with mental health issues are not the same as people with physical illnesses. So it isn't very equal or very fair. What do you think about national single-payer health insurance that treats people with mental and physical issues equally?
Well, it seems like a good idea to me. I don't know enough details about that. I did live in Germany and did live in Japan where they had national health care. And it was so nice to be able to be in their systems where you didn't worry about co-pays or things like that. Yeah.
So I guess there's a pretty strong movement in this country nowadays. And I guess Bernie Sanders is pretty, and Jill Stein of the Green Party for mental parity.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people in this country will face a serious mental health issue in their lifetimes, as you probably know as a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Don?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're a peer support specialist. What is that, a peer support specialist?
So a peer, those of us with mental health issues have many words to describe ourselves. We don't agree. One is consumer, one is peer, one is survivor, one is ex-patient. And so peer is one of these words that the government right now recognizes. And it means persons with mental health experience, or in the state of Oregon also means families who help with people with mental health experience. So peer support specialist is a whole new job. Basically in Oregon recognized for the past 6 years. And there's training, there's a 40-hour training, small test at the end, go through a background check, and you can work as it's like a therapist counselor with the empathy. That means, we talked about that before, because I have experience in the hospital, I have experience being committed by a judge to lose my civil rights. I have those experiences, so working with others, I can work with them. And so it is a real job, and Medicaid can pay for it. There's Medicaid billing for that. And for 3 years, I worked at a place called the Crisis Assessment Treatment Center, CATSI, which is on Northeast Burnside and Martin Luther King.
In Portland?
In Portland, which is a 16-bed inpatient subacute unit. So it's just like a hospital unit. And I worked as a peer support specialist, which means I worked and counseled people from my experience and from their experience. I ran groups, I helped do the food, many things that regular therapists do.
So what do you do with someone who's having some difficulty with a mental health issue, and how do you counsel them? What do you do with them?
I think first of all is being present, being there for people. I know in my own experience, sometimes I didn't want to talk, but just offering to be there. And for example, in that CATSI, the Crisis Assessment Treatment Center, in the mornings, I would just get a cup of coffee. I saw somebody on the couch, and I would ask, can I come sit by you? And sit by them. And if they want to talk, then talk. And the most important thing, I think, is to listen.
Yeah, someone said the most effective way of showing that you care about me and you love me is to listen to me with all of your faculties, not just with your ears.
Right, with the heart.
With the heart, yeah. So you're a peer support specialist?
Yes, I am trained in that. I've gone through 3 trainings. In fact, I teach the training as well. And
you see the results of your teachings and the people that you train? Are they?
Yes, they come back and say they really learned a lot, especially about listening, being empathetic, and communication skills. Active listening, reflective listening.
I bet you're good.
For some people. And that's the trick. Some doctors work well with others, and some people don't like some. The peer support specialists are the same way. Sometimes they like us, and sometimes they don't. They just look at you, oh, we don't like you. And that's okay, right? That's the trick. And sometimes the system thinks, oh, we've got a peer support specialist. That one person can take care of everybody. Well, it's not true. Sometimes you just don't always relate.
Yeah. Wellness. What is wellness compared to not wellness? Not well.
I think that's an individual question,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
For me, it means that I can go out and do things actively, that I have good friends that I do things with, that, for example, I can take care of a cat. I have a house. I have housing. I make good food, and I speak Italiano. That's wellness for me. My friends will get that inside joke, but yes.
Yeah. So when you're with a client or with a group, you probably use your wellness tools. What are your wellness tools?
First of all, for me, it's sleep. It's making sure I get enough sleep. If I don't do that, then I try many other things to make sure I am sleeping. Or I call my doctor and say, I'm a little off balance. I want you to know. I call my therapist and let them know, and my friends. And wellness is also exercising. So I'm a very bad belly dancer. And I do that.
Can you demonstrate that? Not tonight.
I'll teach you after the show, okay? And I like walking a lot and swimming, and just, so wellness is also being active. For me, spirituality is very important. And nature, being out in nature, and being with friends. So there's been years where I really didn't have any friends. I know this happens to people with mental illness, that sometimes you're just alone. And I worked hard and made it a goal to make friends. And that's what I do in the hospitals when I make speeches sometimes now, is I teach people the techniques I learned, how to come out back into the world again.
So those are your tools to stay well?
Yes. What are some of your tools? Is that okay to ask?
Probably my first one is the one you mentioned, really listening and hanging. And for me to listen is to have you be aware that I am listening, and there's more to go with that, but I'm stuck right now.
Okay.
Because if I'm really listening and make you aware of it, then you feel cared about and loved in the broadest sense of the word.
Yes.
And all these other things I mentioned, empathy and sympathy, and have those working. And boy, you're so smart, you lose me. The mental health movement. There's mental health movement worldwide.
Yes, there is one worldwide. We started, I think it is a we. It's a civil rights movement. And it's very exciting as a civil rights movement because it's with people from all ages, all incomes, all sexual, I don't know how to say it. I mean, everybody. It's so orientations, thank you. So when we get our rights, everybody rises, everybody's lives are better. And we still, in some countries, people with mental health issues are still chained to trees. And here, what is it, at least 40% of people in the Portland jail have mental health issues. They're there because of mental health, not necessarily because they're criminals. Also, people lose their rights, they're force medicated. There's many things to work on here.
Why do we have such a high level of people with mental health problems in the Portland area?
In the Portland area?
In the Portland
I think
area.
in every area there is, United States. But why in the Portland area?
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm not quite sure. I think it's everywhere.
I've had a couple of guests on who've been involved with the city council, and
yes,
because of the issues to do with mental health, and the homeless don't have advocates, and there's some deficiency apparently across the board in the Portland area, at least in the Portland area.
Right, but looking at programs, when some agencies make programs, for example, for people who are homeless with mental health issues, the programs don't always match up with what the people want and what they're interested in. So that's, the programs are doing this with the best intentions, but it doesn't always match up. So why would people go back? If they don't like it.
So how do we get people to improve their mental health and be available to function in a halfway normal situation in society and in culture? How do people get into that condition in their life where they're unable to function in regular society? How do they get to be that way?
I think it can happen on any matter of for any matter of reasons. I personally think in the United States, because I've traveled quite a bit, we're missing community. In Portland, we have some community. And that's the point. If we had community, if people have community to go to, then there wouldn't be as many issues, I think. Also, people work too hard in the United States. sometimes when the economy gets bad, you lose money, you lose your housing. That, of course, causes mental health problems. What part of a community for me is going to a Bipolar Depression Support Alliance group. And I've been with some of these people for 10, 15 years. And that's community because we understand each other. And so it's about community.
I'd like to be like a fly on the wall when you guys are meeting and talking about stuff.
Oh, there's some interesting stories there, yes.
What percentage of that group that you're going to are brighter than the average bear? Is there something that goes with
we don't
this kind of
test it, but you know,
I know you don't.
there is that fine line between creativity and madness and brilliance, right? There is that fine line. And a lot of people actually in that group are very artistic. And somebody, her name is Jennifer Pepin, from that group started an art gallery for people with and all the arts from people with mental health issues. After she was at the group and said, wow, so many people here are artistic. So,
and you are artistic?
Yes, I think so. I do some calligraphy, and I think speaking language is an art too.
Of course, yeah. Federal legislation about mental health.
Yes, there's been some recent legislation that we are concerned about, those of us who are peers, consumers, whatever we call each other. And because it's focusing, some of it's good, but some of it's focusing on forced treatment. And forced treatment, do we force people to take cancer medications? Do we force people to do any? And you can lose your civil rights because of mental health. And in any other way, I think being a criminal or mental health, do you lose your civil rights if you refuse to take any other medication? No. There's that fear. And I think part of this legislation is coming from fear. And they may be cutting out programs which are more alternative programs, which may look strange to the public who's never been through mental health issues, but some of those programs actually bring community together.
Give me an example of forced treatment for mental health issues.
There's something called AOT, and now I can't remember when we talk acronyms, but people, if they don't take their medications the way they're supposed to, or ACT teams, I'm saying the wrong things here, but just make the, so if they don't take their medications, then they can end up back in the system, in the jail or hospital system or something. So, and sometimes the medications are not correct. I've been on medications that weren't correct for me.
Yeah.
And like there was one medication for 3 years, believe it or not, I can only say about 5 words an hour. And so sometimes it happens that people are prescribed medications that don't work for them.
Yeah.
And to be forced into that.
Sometimes, maybe fairly often through a lifetime.
Really? Okay. Okay, but so keeping that in mind, forced treatment doesn't always work well for humanity.
How about naturopathic treatments and those kinds of approaches other than pharmaceuticals to help you?
I think it's fantastic. I do that through the Natural University of Natural Medicine here in Portland. But unfortunately, there are some naturopaths who specialize in mental health here, but their first appointments are like $130, $200. Somebody like me on Social Security disability cannot even think about that. And so it's sad that there's that price limitation.
Well, if you had a single payer health plan in America, where people would have better access to treatment for whatever.
Great, yes. Would that be more alternative medicine too? That you could choose, right?
You would choose, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I understand in some countries, particularly in Europe, and even in Japan, they have a better healthcare system than we have in this country. And I think that things would be better for people like the homeless and people who need some help if we had a single payer system and it was available for all citizens.
Yes.
Then that would be much better across the board. Yeah.
Are you getting that started now?
Yeah. So in your experiences in all this time living your life and learning and studying languages and all these kinds of things, any things happened or any events that calls back memories to you about your life and what was going on are worth repeating for the viewers, particularly in your capacity at teaching in different universities and places where you talked and to groups. Anything come to mind that's worth repeating for the viewers?
Well, I think a couple of things I wanted to mention is that I was civilly committed, so I had been cut off at that time. If you're on mental health in Multnomah County, you're doing well, they didn't have money, they cut you off from services.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get medication, and then I didn't speak to people for a few months, locked in my house. Police had to come get me, take me to the hospital.
Oh, my
Civilly
gosh.
committed, lost my rights, and then I appealed it through a lawyer, and it was proven that I shouldn't have been committed. But because I appealed it, that record is now on the internet. It's used as a legal precedent in some cases, and
So
the
you
lawyer
shouldn't have been committed.
shouldn't have been committed, and yet it's on the internet. And Benjamin Hale, the lawyer I worked with who appealed it, he and I worked together, and in Multnomah County now, if you appeal it,
That's in Portland, Multnomah County.
Portland, Oregon. So if you appealed it, your name goes out, used to go out with the whole record. And now if you appeal, it's only the initials. And Benjamin Hale, well, it's partly me, really helped get that started. And that's wonderful. So if people appeal,
So
it's
some
still
anonymity,
safer.
huh?
Yes.
All right.
So that's something that I'm really happy that happened. And I have to say, refugee issues are so important to me
Yes,
too.
talk a little bit about that.
So helping to resettle many refugees in the 90s and working with them when I was in high school, the stories were so heartbreaking. And these young people and other people going through war, it was just, it's really hard, and I've learned a lot from them. And yet when they came, especially the Kurdish community, people from, the ones we resettled were from Iraq and Iran, just they have a sense of community that I haven't seen in my experience with my friends in the United States. We have friends, but it's not that tight community. So I really enjoy being with them.
So there is a Kurdish community of some size here.
Yes, about 400 or 500 people.
Really?
Yeah,
And they
yes.
get together as a group periodically?
Periodically, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what will you be doing in the future, staying in this kind of work that you're doing right now?
I think so. It's a privilege to be invited to the tables I'm at, whether it's through the City of Portland, the State of Oregon, the Police Bureau, the Unity Center for Behavioral Health. I help do planning on that. I'm really privileged to use my skills, my teaching skills, in helping people and helping to cut that fear. People have fear. They say, oh, it's a person with mental health. What's, terrible. But that's my goal, is to help cutting down those forests of fear.
Wow. You really enjoy the work you're doing.
I do. It's not easy, though, Dr. Don, because especially 10 years ago with the police, they treated me like this, really bad. But building the relationships over the years, I've come to understand them a lot more. They come to understand me. And now it's really wonderful. We can work together and make things better. But our community, the mental health community, is still the lowest one on the totem pole everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I don't know most, but we are very discriminated against. And it's not always easy to keep the patience, keep the smiles, keep just being at the table, even if people don't treat me well at the table. I've learned by staying there, it works. Just by being there, being a presence there. Sometimes just listening too, right? Not talking so much.
You keep talking. I love your talking. I'm thinking about my personal experience in recent years with people who are homeless or having a difficult time in their lives. And a story that was kind of personal and unique. I live in Beaverton, here in Oregon, of course. And I was going in Beaverton Town Square from one store to another, walking through the patio area. And it was a beautiful morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, sun shining bright and nice temperature. And out of the corner of my eye, there was a fellow approaching me from the right, and something about him, and I got a full look at him and turned my head, and he had this look about him.
Okay.
And And I said, how are you? And he had this look. He didn't respond. And finally, he wasn't saying very much to me, and I says, are you homeless? And he said, there was a look in his face that said he was glad I asked him. And he says, I don't know if I'm homeless or not. He says, where are you going? He says, I don't know. So I reached in my wallet pretty quick and got a $20 bill, and he says, oh no, I can't take that.
Okay.
And finally I said, I need to have you accept it because I want to give it to you. And he finally took it very carefully, and he was alone and totally lonely, isolated in the world. And when I gave it to him, he reached out and he grabbed me and he just hung on to me. He didn't hug me, he just hung on. And then there's more went on, and I'm not talking about it too pretty well now, but this personal experience. And then when we parted, he left and he looked over his shoulder at me, and this look on his face of gratitude, just beyond description.
And if I could mention something, for anybody in the streets of Portland, you see people you're scared of, like they're acting kind of strange. In my experience, what I do is just try to give them some heart space and at least acknowledge who they are. If they get angry or they don't want me to acknowledge them, that's okay. But at least I tried, and just to connect with them on a human level, even if they don't want to speak. And that's part of the beauty of going in and out of the systems and being psychotic or whatever that's called.
Yeah, you have a broad range of experience there.
Understanding. It's just understanding that we're all human. They may be going through anger, fear, whatever, but demonstrating that human to human kind of feeling, that's important.
The connecting.
The connecting. And if they want to connect, it's okay. You gave them some heart space, it's okay.
So how about personal experiences in your life that would be useful for the
personal experiences?
Yeah.
There are times, in fact, I was in the hospital not too long ago when I didn't talk. I get so scared, I just stopped talking. So in that case, just having somebody near me, not asking a bunch of questions and doing the come here and do this and take this money, that's too much information for me. I need someone just to be there. So that would help me. And then food always helps too. Because chocolate or any kind of food. Because being on disability, it's very hard to live on that kind of money, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
But I think I'm almost ready to go back and work full time. I didn't work for a long time because I couldn't get insurance. And that meant I couldn't get treatment. That means I couldn't work. I mean, it was just this chicken and egg thing. And I'm ready to go back. And but it's scary because the insurance part is so important.
Yeah, maybe things will change on a national level where, like in Oregon even, there's a real effort to have insurance coverage for everybody, mental conditions as well as physical conditions. What are you going to do? What do you do on a typical day?
Typical day? Well, it depends. Is it a weekend or weekday?
Pick one.
Well, if it's a weekday, I do a lot of advocacy work. So whether it's the meeting with the City of Portland about the police issues, or the state of Oregon on making some policies for them. I'm involved right now making policies on what's called the Psychiatric Emergency Services Room. I do a lot of emailing to people and phone calling. And one thing I tried to do is help bring community together. So whatever I do, also we have listservs of peers, people like me, who are doing advocacy. And I try to let people know and get them involved. Not everyone wants to get involved. And another thing about this, I'm not paid. You know, all this advice, all of this advising and things, which is really at a professional level.
Of course.
The systems don't see our value yet. And yet I'm there because I've learned with our voice there, we can make a better system. And so it's
they
like,
find you of some serious value, like the authorities and the city councils.
But they won't pay me. Yet.
We're going to do something about that.
Well, yes, because for other unrepresented populations, they have people and they get paid to do to do work, right? And we're getting there. It just takes a while.
So you're working with police departments and you meet some of those people.
Yes.
Between you and I, do you find that police are more mean than ordinary citizens?
Oh, okay. That's a big, broad, stereotypical question right there. Okay, so here's
we got time. We got to talk about something.
Something to be who are mean. Okay. Honestly, well, there's some mean police and there's some mean TV show hosts too.
Yeah. Don't say that to me.
Well, not you per se. I'm talking about myself. But if you think about it, what they face every day, and what I hear too, that maybe 30 to 40% of their calls have to do with mental health, and they didn't join the police force. What I've heard to be a mental health social worker, they joined to get the bad guys,
and
yet. Well, they're maybe trained for it, but that wasn't their interest.
Yes.
And now they have to do that. Or other people in City of Portland, it wasn't their interest to help people with mental health issues, but it's turned, for example, emergency room doctors, right?
Yeah.
That's not their specialty. That's not what they got into medicine for.
Right.
And yet that's a lot of the people they're working with.
Yeah.
So we're all learning to work together on this. And so I skipped your question, but how's that?
Yeah.
How
about people in government? Do you find those people in government more goofy than normal citizens?
Okay, what I have found is...
How about the mayor? You like the mayor of our city?
Which mayor? The new one or the old one right now?
We're getting into politics anymore.
Really excited about the new one.
I find the people in city council and the people in local government are just delightful human beings.
Exactly. When you get to know them, there's this public persona and the media persona, and then when you're in committees and you get to know them, they work so hard in Portland. They really, and also Multnomah County's Mental Health and Addiction Services, that's who takes care of the 140,000 people on Medicaid, basically, here in Portland, most of the people here in mental health. And those people work so hard. Everyone in the community complains about them, but I volunteered there for 6 years, and they're trying their best, working with the systems that
be. And most of them get paid, or some of them get paid?
Oh, in that system, they all get paid.
Of course they do. You're next.
Hopefully, yes. Yes. So, but there's this perception that people don't work hard in government, and yet the people I see in county government, in city government, and I don't know many in state government yet, they're working really hard. They're doing their best, I think. What do you think?
I think they're doing their best.
Especially in Oregon.
And I think there is a small percentage, like any other population, where their best isn't good enough, or there's something getting in the way of them being able to really listen. That's the bottom line of anything, any kind of interaction with a fellow human being, is to really listen and to pay attention, to be kind.
I did want to bring up something too, a new show that I'm working on. So I have my own show called Advocate for Wellness on cable access about mental health issues, and
who
on
you
YouTube.
Talk to? You interview people?
Interview people, or we talked about mental health court, or the system of commitment, or also individuals or organizations dealing with mental health.
But who do you talk to on your show? Who do you people you have?
People who ask to be on my show or who I find interesting, I ask them. So there's not an application process. It's
of course.
Is there something informational that they want to demonstrate to people, then I help them show their best. Like I had some artists, I just had Melanie Gilman, Frederick, and her husband, and we also talked about the new there's a new homeless kind of solution coming up in Portland.
Yeah,
so
I've heard
I
about
had
that,
them on my show.
Good for you.
But I'm starting a new show.
Are you also a tree hugger? I bet you are.
But the new show's coming up. It's going to be called Mental Health Freedom. I will be co-hosting that with a longtime mental health advocate in Oregon. His name is Kevin Fitz. And we'll be doing a series, at least starting off the fall, six series about mental health news going on in the city and state, what's really going on about policy or changes or insurance. And
it sounds good. Sounds exciting. Yeah. You're going to keep me posted on when it's going to be done?
Yes. Would you like to be on it? Yes, I will.
I'm retired, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Yes.
But, So time is running out for us, and I wonder if there's anything that you want to tell the viewers that you think would be useful for them to hear about what we talked about tonight, or anything else, or you personally, or mental health, or anything at all? So look right in that camera and tell the viewers what you want to tell them. Whatever you want to say.
All right. I would like to say, if you're not feeling well, ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to look for community and to show your vulnerabilities. In this culture, we're taught not to cry, to be tough, but it's by showing those emotions, being human, that you can keep healthy.
Yeah. And I'm learning to be more and more human every day.
Really? Yeah, in this society, we have such a box. Like, don't act out of the box, but yet, like things I do, like ecstatic dance, it's out of the box, and it keeps me happy and healthy. It's okay to be out of the box, isn't it?
So you're still not going to tell me who you're going to vote for in the presidential election? No, don't do that, because some people don't want to do
Which
that.
country are you talking about?
Switzerland.
Okay.
I bet you've had some fine adventures living in foreign countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
What's your favorite country to visit and
I
hang out
think,
with?
well, this is many years ago, but the country that surprised me the most that I didn't expect was Syria. And
Syria.
I was I went with a group of people. We went to Palestinian camps in Syria and Lebanon. And when I thought about Syria, Middle East is I wanted to go to the Middle East because of my work with the Kurds, but I thought it was really scary. And I get there, the people were so warm and friendly. It was exactly the opposite of what I thought. And the food was fantastic too. No pesticides at that time.
Do they have chocolate?
Yes, but the cucumbers had real flavor because there was no pesticides. And we've lost that, I think, in this country at this point.
You're making me hungry. So time is running out. Looks like we better have a few public service announcements before we sign off. Oh, the ACLU, that's an organization I belonged to for many years,
great.
the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be worse off than they are right now. We got to keep fighting for civil liberties. And what else can we put up there to show the viewers about public service announcements? You have one out there, Mr. Director. The end corporate personhood. Corporations are considered persons and money is speech, and that's wrong. The Supreme Court decision was wrong. We have to have a constitutional amendment to say that that should be changed. Thanks for watching. Remember KFC and not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. To you too.
Thank you.
And you too. He's waiting for me. And you too. And you too, Roger. So we'll see you next time. Thanks again, and good night.